Naked and Afraid, Last One Standing, Season 1, Episode 10, The Finale Review. Well, good people, the first season of Last One Standing surely didn't end how I thought it would end, and it was sad to see that Jeff's luck had finally run out. However, the Super Alliance, aka Team Jeff haters, also played a part on the mess known as the finale. So over the course of this review, I'll be sharing my thoughts on Jeff's departure, the first elimination challenge, as well as the showdown between the two last survivalists, and finally, how I felt about the winner of the competition. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. First, I want to give much respect to Jeff. Jeff was able to last the majority of the competition, holding his own and exceeding expectations, despite having the majority of the other cast members working against him to starve him out. And I'm pretty certain that nearly all of the other survivalists on the show wouldn't have lasted half the time that Jeff did if they had to go through what Jeff went through. So I think I speak for most people when I say that Jeff absolutely has nothing to be ashamed of. He played the game to the best of his ability. However, sometimes the best don't always win. And for the past several weeks, I've shown my support for Jeff while understanding that Jeff stood a slim chance of being part of the final two. He had way too many obstacles working against him, but he, in my opinion, will forever be a last one standing legend. So for the first elimination challenge, the remaining 5 survivalists have to build a primitive fire and heat a pot of water to a rolling boil. This challenge was a double elimination challenge in that the first 3 survivalists that complete the challenge within the allotted time will proceed to the finale. However, the caveat that I didn't like was that if 1 or 2 survivalists qualified for the finale and the remaining cast members didn't complete the challenge by a certain time period, then they would all be automatically eliminated. From my observation, all of the survivalists had their own techniques for starting the fire. I think that Jeff had the best foresight on what the challenge would be, but its execution was pretty poor. But I also have to point out that the rules of the challenge were very clear, especially the part that said that the participants were to work individually. Let me repeat myself. The participants were to work individually. And in fairness, the rules of the challenge were followed until Waz finished his fire first. In my opinion, once Waz finished his fire first, he should have stayed in the area near the scrolls, or he should have returned to the camp. Waz instead went back to the competition and offered to help and motivate everybody except Jeff, which in my opinion was a violation of the rules. And in my opinion, Waz should have been disqualified because he gave his friends an advantage in an effort to stack the finale with who he wanted to face off against. And to me, that kind of ruins the whole aspect of the show being a competition to see who's the best. But I also think that the show allowed Waz to help out whoever he wanted to, because from the looks of things, I don't think the other survivalists would have finished the challenge within the time period without any help. Now I gotta commend Gary and Steven for their efforts. They tapped out of the fire making challenge due to the fatigue, but they lasted a lot longer than I would have lasted for sure. But Waz's advice on how to start a fire really helped Dan, and Waz's refusal to help Jeff ultimately sealed Jeff's fate. And to hear Waz talk about how he would have helped Jeff if Jeff was willing to share his items in the beginning of the challenge brings me to my next talking point. Now in my opinion, if certain rules were put in place that forbid survivalists from sharing with one another, or forming a super alliance like they did this season, then Dan and Waz would have never made it near the finale. We have to be honest with all of this. Gary, Steven, and Jeff were the workhorses for the season of the show. Matt was impressive with his ability to catch frogs, and he was the mastermind behind the plan to get rid of Jeff. But Dan and Waz essentially made it to the finale while benefiting from the charity of others and not because of their individual skills. Now I give credit to where credit is due. Waz found a number of fishing assets, but we never really see him use any of them to catch any fish. Dan also found a fishing asset, but he only caught enough food to feed himself a snack. So I'm really not impressed with how Dan and Waz made it to the finale. However, I predicted early on that Dan would make it far, simply because I saw how he was using others to get ahead. And I'll also admit that I underestimated Waz for how far he would go. Now in my opinion, one of the better parts of this finale was the final elimination challenge. The challenge was a 3-day extraction challenge that had time skills tests to determine who would win it all. And Dan gave it his all, but Waz came out victorious, which was very interesting from my perspective. I say that it's interesting because the 2 elimination challenges for this episode played into the skill set of Waz, and although Dan had several opportunities to beat Waz, Waz came out on top. So while Waz was the winner of the challenge, I definitely have to question the decision to give him a PSR of 10.0. Waz never really encountered any resistance in his quest to win the overall challenge. He was in a good position with his team members, and with other cast members doing the bulk of the heavy lifting, he sat back and conserved all his energy. But I fully acknowledge Waz as the winner, and I respect what he had to go through to win the $100,000. Now I know that Naked and Afraid Last One Standing Season 1 is officially over for us as the viewing audience, but it is not over for me just yet. And what I mean by that is that seeing these past 10 episodes has given me much food for thought, and I plan to release at least 4 additional videos that share my thoughts on what changes should be made on a potential Season 2 of Last One Standing, how I would rank the cast members for Season 1, which survivalists should be included in the Season 2 of the show, as well as how Season 1 could have ended if certain cast members didn't make the decisions that they did. But this concludes my review. I want to thank all of you who tuned in to watch Season 1 of Naked and Afraid Last One Standing, and all of you who decided to check out my reviews. I also want to thank everybody who subscribed to my channel after seeing my Naked and Afraid reviews. I'm getting very close to the 2,000 subscriber mark, and it will be my goal to continue reviewing Naked and Afraid content in the future. Lastly, I want to thank everybody who's ever left a comment on one of my reviews for Naked and Afraid. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with my assessment of the show, I encourage all feedback in the comment section. And speaking of the comment section, I would like to know what you all thought about the Season 1 finale for Naked and Afraid Last One Standing. Do you think that Waz deserved a win? And if not, who did you want to see as the finale winner? Feel free to leave all comments below in the comment section, and I'll be replying to everybody. So until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.